this is Tenyan. Welcome to my review of Shin Ultraman, which is directed by Shinji Higuchi. It is the latest entry in the film series with the Shin title, which started with Shin Godzilla back in 2016, which was the first of 3 planned reboots of classic Japanese kaiju and superhero properties. After Japan is attacked by several giant alien monsters called kaiju, humanity looks to a superhuman being called Ultraman as its last hope for survival. Shin Ultraman got its first US screenings on January 11th and 12th of 2023. Now, I hadn't watched any of the Ultraman TV series or movies, so I didn't have much of a context for this movie. As a kid, I was a huge anime and Japanese film fan, so I did know about the original Ultraman show, which debuted in the late 60s, but I never had a chance to see it, mainly because it was hard to find. Unlike other Japanese properties, Ultraman was never widely broadcasted in the US at the time. I really first became aware of Ultraman through the toys, which I collected with a passion. Hideaki Anno, who directed Shin Godzilla, also wrote the screenplay for Shin Ultraman, which can be seen as a kind of spiritual successor to Shin Godzilla. Anno is best known as the creator of Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I avidly watched in the 90s. Now, I would like to digress for a moment. I grew up in a time when anime was still a niche market in the US, so it wasn't like you could rent a lot of them at your local video store, unless it was something like Akira or Wicked City. Evangelion was first distributed in the US on VHS, which you had to buy, and anime was not cheap. My local record store, Coconuts, which no longer exists, started selling the series. So every month, my brother and I would go there to pick up the latest tape of Evangelion episodes as soon as they were released. That was an investment, but well worth the memories. It's no surprise that Shin Ultraman shares similar themes as Evangelion. It does a good job of preserving the corny, lighthearted sensibility of a 60s kaiju movie, while also grounding the story in a believable reality by creating some real-world stakes around the action. This is not your average, childish, giant monster beat-em-up movie, but an intelligently crafted story, which engages with some darker adult issues. The plot revolves around a global, or really intergalactic, arms race. Japan is competing with the US to bolster its military capability. While the themes aren't as overtly theological as in Evangelion, it's suggested that what distinguishes a god or superior being from a mortal really comes down to which side has greater force or power. Here, the mark of a higher being lies in their power to destroy us. The human characters helplessly submit themselves to these stronger, technologically superior alien beings. From the perspective of these giant aliens, humans look like children, so the question becomes, will they feel compassion towards us as a parent towards a child, or will they crush us like insects? Ultraman nicely embodies this moral struggle in the movie. He's an alien-human hybrid who fuses with a human named Shinji, played by Takumi Saito. I found Saito's performance overshadowed by his CGI alter ego, Ultraman. Granted, Saito is given a difficult task of playing an alien appearing in human form. I think he wanted to come off as otherworldly, but his performance mostly registers as cold, flat, and emotionless. Despite that, I still found his overall character arc interesting to watch. Ultraman is also kinda cyborg-like. Shinji is not just an alien-human hybrid, but a fusion of man and machine. In this way, he can be seen as a personification of technology's destructive capability, similar to other classic Japanese icons such as Godzilla, who was a product of nuclear radiation. As a mix of human, machine, and alien, he becomes in the movie a bridge between all these conflicting elements. In this way, he offers a way of hope, empathy, and compassion, which could possibly break this dark Darwinian cycle of world dominance and destruction. I loved how the movie's look and special effects emulated the charming retro style of classic Japanese monster movies. Both Ultraman and the monsters he fights, although CGI creations, still look like actors in suits, which was no doubt intentional. For Ultraman's effects, they brought back the original actor in the suit from the 60s show, Ben Furuya, who did motion capture in order to give Ultraman's movements that classic feel. I also liked how they combined the CGI effects with a lot of practical miniature effects shots. I always find it more immersive to have an actual physical set to ground the effects, particularly when using CGI. It still looked like a live action Saturday morning cartoon, but I never found it goofy, in large part due to the grounded approach to the story, which almost plays out like a political thriller that just happens to have kaiju and aliens in it. I think the movie did a good job creating an updated Ultraman story that resonates with a lot of real world issues, particularly around the sense of urgency when our technological capacity for destruction reaches apocalyptic levels. You can still enjoy the movie as a fun kaiju monster fight film. Ultraman has plenty of adversaries here. If I had a criticism, I think they tried to pack too many villains in this one. The movie feels like it's spread thin at times as it jumps from one cataclysmic monster scenario to the next, which kind of lessens their impact. I think the movie would have benefited from a little more setup and focus in certain areas. All in all, Shin Ultraman is a fun, self-aware, and surprisingly thought-provoking kaiju fest. It has a delightfully retro sensibility, as well as the feel of a live-action anime. I'm not sure it will win over new audiences unfamiliar with its callbacks and references to the 60s kaiju shows and movies. It's one of those films that knows what it is about and has fun with it, but despite all of its self-referential nods and winks, I appreciated how it still plays it straight and stays true to the story it's telling. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't, please like and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.